3, 2, 1, go. Hey, welcome everybody back to the Behind the Gate podcast. We just did this 2 days ago. We're ripping these episodes right along here.
I thought it
And
was last Wednesday already. I forgot when it was.
no, remember you were in Florida. You had your a personal thing came up, and we did it on what was that, Saturday or Sunday?
Yeah,
But we're
no wonder
moving
why.
right along. We're back at it.
Yeah,
So
we're dialed.
everybody's enjoying it, and tonight we're joined by Jeremiah Ellis, who was AJ's mechanic for many years, entrepreneur, mechanic, expert of motorcycles in all capacities. AJ, elaborate a little bit more.
He has a lot of. He's kind of like Rob Klingen. For those of you that know Rob Klingen, he has a lot of titles. He was my babysitter. Jeremiah did a lot of things.
Still is your babysitter.
He was my Supercross
Yeah,
mechanic in 20. See, now I can't remember the years. 2015, 16.
Yep.
And was it just that? It felt
17.
like forever.
No, in 17.
Oh, 17 on East Coast.
But it was like first half of 17. Because 17 was Blue Buffalo, right?
Yeah. So you were my mechanic on the
I think
450 side of that.
17 was the Blue Buffalo year.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So three seasons.
East Coast 450.
Three good seasons for
And
me
then
too.
rode it out. Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
And then a couple fill-in spots after that. So Jeremiah,
We had a good
Jeremiah
time.
was the highest. Jeremiah was the highest paid privateer.
Dude,
You're cutting out like freaking crazy, man. Is that him?
Yeah, it is, unfortunately.
Damn.
How about Wi-Fi? You on Wi-Fi
It's me?
or yeah?
It's
yeah,
gotta
I'm on
be.
Wi-Fi. My
You
Wi-Fi
sound-
sucks though.
Well, that explains it.
Yeah. I live
Well-
on Cape Cod, man. It's like
Just no sudden movements. When you sit really still, it works good.
okay.
Just don't move. Do not move.
This happens to the best podcast. Rogan deals with this all the time. Don't
Yeah,
worry
I'm sure.
about
I'm sure.
it. It happens all the time.
Jeremiah is
yeah.
also Jeremiah is the highest paid privateer mechanic. Also, that was one of his titles
Ever
ever of
I
all
don't know
time.
about that.
And what kind of
I don't
insight
know
do you
about
have
that.
on the finances of all privateer
I should have just
mechanics,
bagged.
AJ?
I should have just bagged groceries at Stop and Shop. I probably would have made more money.
Probably, yeah. Highest paid
Yeah.
privateer mechanic is not a. It's not that hard to do when
Well,
99.9%
it's a passion. It's a
of them
passion
are
project.
free.
Oh yeah, totally passion.
So,
What were
Jeremiah,
you saying before?
what is your background? Formally.
Well, God, I went to school for motorcycle repair down at MMI. I went
Okay.
down there in 2000 and graduated 2001, came home, and I worked in the motorcycle industry for 18 years, I think, total. Before I'd hooked up with AJ, I had pretty much just worked in dealerships. And I worked at Betancourt's. I worked there for 3 years. And then I went and worked at Pilgrim Power Sports in Plymouth. Worked there for 10 years. And then I left Pilgrim and decided to go on my own and start my own thing. And that's when I got hooked up with AJ.
So the way we met, this whole story is
Started doing the whole Supercross thing.
this whole story is kind of crazy. So Jeremiah and I met in 2013 when I was brought to Pilgrim Power Sports, like for a meeting, almost like a cold call meeting type thing, like just sort of showed up, right? And were you in?
No, so basically what happened was like we were really working at that time. Pilgrim, we were really working on trying to get our name out there, and we were sponsoring a lot of locals. And then we had a guy that called us saying that you didn't have a ride, like you didn't have a bike. And this particular person said, I see, a lot of Pilgrim Power Sports bikes out there, and I know AJ's doesn't have a bike. Would you guys be willing to sponsor him? That was
And
the
you
phone call
pushed-
that I got. And then I said, yeah, let's set up a meeting. So then that's the meeting you're talking about, where you came down to meet us.
So you were the advocate for it. There was resistance,
Yeah, I
probably
mean,
a little bit.
A lot of it.
Yeah.
Lot of it. Oh yeah, yeah. So I mean, because the thing was, you weren't local. Like even though you were in Connecticut, it's like you still weren't really local at that time. Like you were all over the place.
Right.
So, at Pilgrim, it was funny because initially they did not want to give you a bike. You know, they just didn't really see any value in it. And I was working in sales at the time, and I knew all the programs that Cowie had, and I'd been doing it for a little while, so I knew, I just knew them in and out. So I knew we could get the bikes. I knew we could get it. I knew how to make it work. I knew how to make it work so that the dealer didn't have to spend any money. It was like a win-win for everybody.
Right.
And I remember arguing, pissed off arguing in the office about getting you a bike. And it's so funny because I'll never forget it. We got
And you didn't know me then. You didn't. We didn't know each other yet.
No. I mean, I knew who you were, but I didn't really know you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I knew that I knew you were good enough to get a Pilgrim Power Sports bike. I knew that for sure, you know. And I knew it was a no-brainer, you know. And it was funny because it's funny. I remember feeling the pressure of oh shit, this better work, you know, because I was responsible for it. But I'll never forget because it was Daytona and you were in the LCQ, and Emmett, he announces, and AJ Catanzaro riding for, and I remember him stalling and goes,
"Oh no,
Pilgrim Power Sports." And it was live race, and as soon as he said that, my phone just started blowing up in my pocket. I'm sitting there going, "Oh my God, I can't believe they just announced Pilgrim Power Sports on TV." You know, and then instantly just my phone's blowing up. Did you hear that? Did you hear that? And then after
That's
that,
awesome.
all of a sudden, it was a great idea. It was a great idea. It was
of course it
everybody's
was.
idea.
Yeah.
It was
Oh,
everybody's
for
idea.
sure.
Just great. Yeah.
Well, Bryce, the way the Cowie program worked then, and maybe it still works this way now, is they were demo bikes. So you're given these bikes for X amount of time, like 6 months or a year. You use them, and then you give them back to the dealership, and the dealership, in this case, the dealership was responsible for selling them. So the risk for the dealer is, okay, we get these bikes back. I think I got 2. We get these bikes back, and he hasn't taken care of them. They're crap, and we can't get any money for them. And then we're out whatever money, if we can't sell them for much. Really, that was the risk for the dealership. I don't think they gave me parts or anything like that. But any pro, their bikes should be, especially in Supercross, their bikes aren't getting that dirty. Your bikes are really well maintained. I would assume those
They're
bikes
also getting ridden pretty hard.
Kinda, not really. I ride pretty gentle. I mean, in Supercross, think about it. You're not going through deep mud, or the worst thing you'd see is a sand section,
right?
For 50 feet. Outdoors, riding the sand pits out by Pilgrim, where the dealership is, one day in the sand pits does more damage to a dirt bike than an entire Supercross season would. So there wasn't a whole. And trust me, at this point, I was 18? I was probably 18 years old, 17 years old. 18, 19, somewhere around there. I didn't know anything. But looking back on it, I mean, that was definitely should have been a pretty easy decision, I think, on their end. And now them with Canning, if they're still with Canning, that's obviously a no-brainer because Canning dominates, and he's local. He's only local. So
Jeremiah, so how being that you know so much of the ins and outs and advocated for AJ so much, how did you guys track the value, or how does a dealer, I think a lot of people might have this question, when they choose to sponsor somebody, give a rider a bike, whether it's a pro or local guy, how are they keeping track, or are they, and what metrics are they using to kind of see the return on that investment?
They're not. They're really not. And unfortunately, it's I would say this all the time, is that there was really no way of tracking. It's just like advertising. Just like advertising in business. I mean, now with the internet, it's it was the best thing to ever happen to advertisers, because now they have the numbers, so they can say, oh, we saw this many views or that many views. But back in the day, you'd have somebody coming in, sitting down from the cable company, wanting to talk about, what they think they get for views, or what they think they get for views in a newspaper, article or something like that, or an advertisement. There's no real way of knowing. I mean, every now and then we would do these things where we would try to get AJ to put out a 20% off coupon code, or, try to get mention him and get, some sort of discount on the bike or something along those lines. But at the end of the day, it's like really the motorcycle industry is a very funny business, and it's like at the end of the day, it really doesn't. I mean, I don't think that we really sold a whole lot. Like, it wasn't like AJ, raced, or AJ's name got announced at Daytona and all of a sudden we're selling bikes.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
It's like, and that's not the way that it works, But so, that was the hardest part for me trying to get through to the owners. We were basically just trying to create an image,
Right.
trying to create an image that like we're racers.
Yeah.
And we like they're in the racing scene, and so that's pretty much that's what you try to do, It's marketing. Try to get the logo out there at least.
I think that's going to be highlighted this season in particular in a big way with Gas coming on the scene. And they're relatively, I mean, unless you're involved in the motorcycle community and kind of follow the sport, Gas is not a household name. I think there's going to be a lot of people that might be tuning in that are like, Gas? What's that? Or they might know them from trials or stuff in Europe. But now that they've put who's on Gas? Barsha, the TLD team, Ronnie Stewart, we just saw. I'm curious what their sales are going to look like, especially in the U.S. with putting some big names and having some decent exposure this season.
I mean, you would think like just their ties to KTM alone would be the credibility that they needed, but
why? But if you walk into a gas dealer and you see gas KTM Husky, why are you choosing which bike? Is it just like, I like red?
You're right. Now it's going to be the TLD link up, because I've already seen people buy those bikes and TLD them out like that. Yeah. It's that image.
Yeah, I mean, they're definitely the shiny new penny. It's like everybody wants. It's like a restaurant that comes out. It's like it doesn't even really matter like what kind of restaurant you are. It's like if you could open up, and as long as you serve good food, it's like you're gonna be the hit. Like because you're in the new place. Like, oh, let's go to that new restaurant. But then after a while, it just kind of dies off if you don't work it the right way. I think the gas. What the thing that I like about them is I saw that they have lower retail MSRP.
Yeah.
And went.
That's one of the big draws.
Yeah, like it was funny. I was talking to a kid and he said, I recommended that he look into the gas and think about the gas. And he was like, oh, well, there isn't a map switch on the handlebar. And I started laughing and I was like, how many people actually are changing their maps? You know what I mean?
It's a novelty for most people, I think.
Exactly. And it's like, the change and the demand for like the newest, baddest thing in our business is what's driving that,
Yeah.
And I saw this happen in the jet ski market. I saw this happen in the sport bike market. Sport bikes, it was crazy. Like I'm old. When I was in high school, it was like all these kids had these like awesome sport bikes, It's like there was just so many of them. You saw them everywhere. Guys were going up and racing sport bikes up at Loudon, right? Like your everyday guy. And then what ended up happening is the bikes just kept getting better and better and more badass and more badass. And now it's like you go to Pilgrim Power Sports to buy like a ZX6 or a ZX10, and it's like you're buying a work bike. It's like the thing is just so much nastier than anybody's ever going to need, but you don't see them anywhere anymore. You know what I mean? Because they're friggin' almost, 15 grand.
You know what's funny that you say that? Is I came across a video not too long ago where they pitted an 04 Gixxer 1000 versus like the top of the line race spec Ducati sport bike, race bike. And I forgot, like the horsepower numbers was out of control. It was clearly more powerful. Everything on paper should have beaten the Gixxer, but the Gixxer, like the 04 Gixxer 1000 beat it around a track. Like every single time. And it just went to show like, hey, maybe all of this just overdoing everything, maybe there's going to be a kind of diminishing returns there at some point. Too much power, too much this or that.
Definitely.
Well, it puts the average person
100%.
it puts it right out of the average person's price range, really. How much cheaper is the gas than like a Husky or a KTM? Like $200
I'm
or
not
like,
sure about all the numbers, but I think it's a couple I think
Yeah, it's
Oh.
dude,
it's
it's a
93 or something.
significant.
oh wow,
It's
okay.
like,
So
yeah,
it's-
it's like it's at least $1,000.
Yeah, I want to say it was even
2,000. I don't know.
we could
I
look,
don't know what
but
the numbers are.
so
Wow.
what are some of the biggest changes? I think one of them, like they're wheels that are made by Excel, but they're not branded Excel. Like there's a couple like subtle things.
Yeah, and I
that
think
trimmed
that
cost.
I think the triple clamps are different too.
Right. Yep.
And then, again, I don't think that they have the starting device or the map switch. Traction control.
AJ would tell you that who
Right.
needs that, AJ?
you know, I will say the
Maps particularly.
I thought of Jeremiah today actually, because speaking of map switches, because somebody commented on one of my YouTube videos and said, "Oh, what stock map are you running in that thing?" And I didn't know, because I didn't even think to ask or look when we were down in Florida what map was in that race bike, because Jeremiah and I would get into it all the time. Like he would insist on putting the white map in, which was the aggressive one, and I always like, I think, right? Didn't I always want the slower one in? But you're like, no, we have
Always.
to.
Yep.
He
there'd
insisted
be a
that
lot
we
of
put the
times
fast one in.
There would be times where I'd make changes and I'd put the plug in. He wouldn't know. Come on, off the track. That was great. I don't know, different about it. Something different. Something's much better. Yep. That were good. Same thing with suspension changes too. That was the greatest.
Well, you're still good for that, right, AJ? Just somebody says they made a switch on it, but maybe they didn't. But in your head, you think they did. So,
Dude, that's
works
any
out.
rider to a certain extent, I feel
Right,
like. But Jeremiah
totally.
did something one time that was so okay, like the relationship between a rider and mechanic, like you have to trust your mechanic,
Yeah.
like a lot. If you have any doubts whatsoever, especially in a supercross track, you're freaking out the whole time you're out there. So like Jeremiah was one of those people that right off the bat, and Jeremiah, you have to tell the story, like your first experience wrenching for me. So like, but my first experience with you, I think, was at, for some reason, Toronto Supercross is ringing a bell. Like something went wrong the year I was on the Pilgrim bike.
Oh yeah,
And
that was the one I got that MMI award. That was at Toronto.
Oh yeah, no, but that was even a different year. So that was when
Yeah,
you JB welded something, and I got into
Yeah.
the 450
Oh.
main, and with the cases JB welded, I got 15th, which is my career best 450 finish. Like
Yep, JB Wells and duct tape.
and duct tape.
And duct tape. We had to put
And
the duct tape over.
That's a combo right there.
But I trusted it. I trusted it because I was like, Jeremiah, he must have been sweating it too, because like I knew at that point, I'd known Jeremiah for long enough. I'm like, he wouldn't put me on this bike if it weren't going to last the main event. So I was fully confident, even though there was duct tape on the side of my engine case. Like,
Yeah, so there was something else about that too, which I don't even know if you know this, but just to like tell you I'll tell the story real quick. You were out in the LCQ, and what happened is that like when we were, with the races being live, they would put a lot of pressure on us that once the LCQ was over, we had to be like right back out on the track, right?
mm-hmm.
And it was, yeah. So like we weren't even allowed to gas up. Like we had to be like pretty much ready to go right back into staging. And I remember you come off the track, and we were all excited because you had made it into the main. And then you're like, no, we're done. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And then you're like, look, there's a hole in my case. And I look down, and there's just like probably like easy a dime. Oh my God. Hold on.
What, do you have it?
Yep.
No way.
Oh, nice.
Yep. I have it right here.
Hey, Abby. Hey.
Oh my God. That's so
What's crazy
funny.
though is that ended up
You're
being
going to look.
my best 450 main event ride ever by a long shot. No
Yeah.
way.
So this is the cover with the duct tape on it. Melted. I mean, like, because we put the duct tape on the motor, and then it's like just burning hot, right? and you can see, like, I don't know if you can see inside of here, but you can see the JB
Oh, yeah.
weld like poking through.
Wow.
Wow.
So basically, I just took the. So yes. So the funny part is like I look down and immediately I see the hole in the case, and I think immediately right off the bat, I'm like, we're screwed. Like I can't fix that. And then I'll never forget it. All of a sudden, I'm just like, I can fix it. I can fix it. And everyone's looking at me like, what? And I just start running with the bike, and I'm like, let's go. You remember that? Like, and all of a sudden I'm like running, and the people, the track workers, like trying to like, where are you going? Where are you going? We just start running, and I had remembered that I had that little piece of JB Weld in my toolbox, and it was like literally just enough to do that. It was like one of those little sticks that you kind of like knead together. And so we ended up going back. I ended up putting the JB Weld on there, and I was like really scared that it wasn't going to be hard enough. So then that's when we put a little duct tape on there, you know, to make sure that it didn't pop out at all, right? And so then you ended up. No, that was to make it to the LCQ.
I think so.
That was after the semi because they were doing semis.
Because I remember
That's right.
I know what caused it is I slammed Tommy Hahn like bad.
That's what it was. Yep. Yeah, so we ended up having to go to the we didn't have enough time between the semi and the LCQ, but we ended up making it back in time. You were waiting at the gate.
Yep.
Remember that?
Yep.
Like you were waiting at the gate, and I'm running like out in the middle of like the stadium in Toronto, and I'm by myself, like just running this bike down the sidelines. So funny. And I ended up got it to you right as literally the gate dropped, like less than a minute later. It was awesome.
Unbelievable.
It was awesome.
Crazy.
And I remember you looking at me going, "Are you sure it's okay? Are you sure it's good?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah, it's good, it's good." And the gate dropped, and off you went. But yeah, then you ended up making it to the main out of the LCQ, and at that point, I had told Bob. I had already told him, go find us a cover, because if we make it to the main, we're going to need an ignition cover, you know?
Mm.
Oh, so did I run a new one for the main?
Yeah. So then, that's right. So then you ended up making it to the main. Then Bob ended up getting one from the Cowie tent, or from the Cowie truck. Then we went back, and we were able to swap out covers for the main event.
Man, and I remember that main event too, like, it was just that was a good main event for me. Even though 15th doesn't sound like much, that was a good main event for me.
But the funny part of that story, just to finish,
and you won the thing.
In that, yeah, I won the MMI award, which was awesome because I did not see that coming. So it was like as soon as the gate had dropped, you went to do the sight lap. That's what it was. You went to do the sight lap, and all of a sudden that reporter comes over and just like. She's like, "Oh, are you Jeremiah? Are you the one that just fixed AJ's bike?" And I was like, "Yeah." She's like, "Oh, great. You won the MMI award." And I was like, "Oh, really?" And then instantly there's this guy with this massive camera right in my face, right? And then she's all queued up. She's got the mic in front of my face. And I'll never forget that. Like, it was not planned whatsoever. She starts talking to me and like wanted to know what happened with the bike or something, or, you know, give us a quick rundown on what happened. And then as soon as I started talking into that microphone, I heard the reverb from the stadium, and it was the echo. And I'll never forget that feeling as I'm talking in front of the whole entire stadium, and I just can barely even hear myself think.
I hate that. Isn't that brutal?
Oh my God,
that is the worst sensation ever.
That was like one of those moments in life where you just like are so in the moment that it just seems like it lasts for a long time, you know?
Crazy.
And,
you know what? What's wild too is Rob won the Top Tech Award at Toronto also a different year.
Yeah, like 2 years before. That was
really?
That was the year that you rode for Pilgrim, and I went out there just to spectate.
Oh yeah, it was.
Remember that? Yeah, and I was just like, I was videoing the whole time. I'm like, look, it was like Pilgrim Power Sports everywhere. So funny.
Man, we've had so many. So we're going to be all over the place with these stories. Go ahead.
I know. There's so many because once you get going. But the funniest thing is your comment, like, Jeremiah would never put me out there on a bike that was bad. And it's so funny because I remember driving home from Toronto, and just like, I remember it took, I think it was like 10 hours or something, and I'm just driving. I'm like mid New York, and all of a sudden I got this thought in my head, and I was like, I never checked to see if there was anything floating in the motor from that cover. And all of a sudden I'm like, oh my God. So then I went home and tore apart the motor, and I ended up finding this piece.
Oh my God.
The part of the cover
Yeah, that broke
that had
was
got
inside,
blown in to the motor.
and it was just in my motor.
So
It was just in there.
it was just chilling in there. So
Wow.
I mean,
Dude, that's
it
my
wouldn't have
luck
been-
though. I have great luck with that stuff. Knock on wood.
Yeah, like it wouldn't have been the end of the world, because the transmission would have chewed this thing up pretty quick, but it was still enough that you wouldn't want that to happen.
Mm.
You wouldn't want your transmission chewing up any pieces out on a supercross track.
Man, crazy.
Yeah.
So that would have been 2016 450.
Yeah.
So Jeremiah and I met 2013. That's when I rode Cowie 250. That was my best year in Supercross ever on a 250, at least. Got 10th in points, got a 4th, a 6th, a 7th, and 8th. Like I was up there all season. But then Jeremiah came back into the picture. So Jeremiah was involved like on and off that year. Like you were my contact, I think, basically for Pilgrim. Like when I would need to get in touch for stuff, like you were my guy. And then 14, I'm sure we were in touch, but I don't really remember. And then 15, when I rode for JMR for Jeff,
Oh God.
we had a situation where Jeff, the team manager, fired my mechanic, right?
No, before that, I can tell.
Okay,
You want me to tell the story?
Yes,
Yeah,
because
yeah. I'll tell my part, my
your
side,
version.
and it's good too. But yeah, so there was a period after 2013, and I think I would like shoot you a text here and there, but like we weren't really friends, And yeah, you were riding for JMR. It was the San Diego round, so you were riding West Coast.
Oh yes,
but,
yep.
But Connor couldn't go out there, right? Like he didn't want to fly your mechanic out or something, so he was just gonna wrench for you.
I can't
what it
remember
was?
why, honestly.
I know, I think he wrenched for you that weekend. But yeah, so it was funny. So that was right after I went out on my own, and I was working for myself, and I ended up having to get carpal tunnel surgery. So I took some time off from work, and I was like, oh, let's go to a supercross race out in San Diego. I had a buddy that lived out there. Let's go. So we go out there, and we were in San Diego, and I remember thinking to myself, hey, I should text AJ and let him know we're here. And I'll never forget this, because I second guessed myself. And I go, nah, he doesn't, there's no reason why he's like I talked myself out of it. And then I remember going, no, what the hell? Why not? And I texted you and was like, hey, if you need anything, I'm out here this weekend. And then you were like, oh, that's cool. You should come for lunch with us. And I
don't remember that.
Okay. I know. That's why I figured I should tell a story. So it was funny because I was such a fangirl at that time. Like the whole Supercross thing, like I was just so into it. And the idea of like going to lunch with like you and this team owner of JMR Racing, like I just remember being so pumped up about it. We ended up going, having lunch, met Jeff, like it was awesome. We were all getting along. And then Jeff was like, oh, we're heading out to the pits. He's like, you want to come hang out? We got to swap out some handlebars and put the suspension on. And I'm like, oh, hell yeah. I was like, let's go, So we ended up going to the pits, and I'll never forget it. I was just such a fangirl. Oh, funny story. I remember
Didn't you
Jeff
fix
going,
something there?
Well, one of the things was like, he's like, we got to swap out the handlebars. His handlebars are bent. And I'm like, oh, all right. And then we go out to his car, and he's like, here. He's like, can you carry these for me? And they were like the new handlebars. And the new handlebars were more bent than the old handlebars. Like the handlebar mounts, it was just like, it was ridiculous. Yeah. And then, that day, it was Friday. we ended up helping you guys put the suspension on the bike, and basically like I took over and was like kind of doing everything. And
I do
was
remember
awesome.
you kind of taking over. I don't remember that night or how the racing went there, but I do remember you kind of taking
So-
over, and that's what planted the seed for the real craziness.
Right. So it was like I just was like in the moment, like this is awesome. I'm sitting here working in the Supercross pits, and then that was fine. We left, said goodbye, whatever. Next day, racing starting. You're doing your thing, and then all of a sudden, we went over to see you. You came off the track and you were freaking out. You're like, "There's something wrong with my front end. There's something wrong with my front end." And everybody's looking at your bike. No one could figure it out. Jeff couldn't figure it out, and everybody was wigging out. And and at this point, like everything was all set up, so it had like you were riding. It was Team Gus, I think you guys were with at that point. So there was like the fence was up and the awnings and all that stuff. And then I remember like finally like jumping in there, and it was a bent rotor. Like you had a bent front rotor,
Mm-hmm.
and it was just bent enough that it was like you were losing your front brake, but it was like making your front end weird.
Yep.
So we swapped out the rotor, and you got back out there and everything was good. And then that's really like what kind of sparked it with Jeff, that, hey, this might be a good idea, So anyway, so it was like that happened. San Diego was awesome. I was a fangirl, living, like just had my moment. Like that was great. Then we went out that night and we actually had a fun time. That was a really fun time.
Uh-huh.
Right? And
Don't remember that.
that was when
You were still
yeah,
married.
It's hard to remember. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Your wife was there.
And my buddy, yeah.
Okay, I
Ex-wife.
remember that.
And then you remember my buddy, he manages the Tipsy Crow in downtown San Diego. And he was dating this bartender that was at something Flats or something, wasn't it? Moonshine Flats or something. But anyways, he was like dating this bartender that worked there, and so we got the hookup getting in. We got the hookup when we were there. Like, we were getting drinks whenever we needed them. It was a fun night. I had a blast.
Was I there with you?
Fantastic. You were, but I remember like all the racers. It's like typical. Like I'm all excited to go out like partying with the racers after Supercross, and you guys were just all bunch of weenies. Like nobody was drinking. It was kind of like hanging out. Like nobody was really doing anything. It was funny. But
that
anyways,
was too long ago for me to remember. Okay,
I
so
know,
that was San Diego. Now fast.
That was San Diego. So then during the week, it was like during that week or maybe the week after, and I'm talking with Jeff, and he comes up with this idea that I should be your new mechanic. So I'm sitting there like, oh man, I don't know if I can do it. I don't know if I can pull it off, but I will try, and then sure enough, we end up talking. We end up making it all. We figured it all out. It was like, God, it was like I ended up getting a rental car here. Like I bought a rental car here, and then I went and picked you up at Allie's house in Rhode Island, and then drove from
Really?
Jersey. Yeah, went to New Jersey, and then we picked up Jeff, and then the three of us drove out there.
What?
Yeah, and it was like you hated it. Like,
Oh, I'm
you
sure.
remember that? Like
I was in a.
you
I
were
drove in a rental car to the.
so like you were sleeping in the back the whole time.
Oh, I'm
You
sure.
were just so like disgusted with the fact that you were having to drive to the race.
How
You just
how
couldn't
long ago
take
was
it
this?
anymore.
What year was the JMR bike, AJ? 'Cause I rode that bike
2015.
at Rocky Hill. Do you remember that?
Is that's the time you went to Rocky Hill? That would have been
was one-
2015. 2015. right?
2015. Because didn't we? That was the day.
Yeah, 2015.
That was one of the. That was you. Yeah, you had your JMR Suzuki at Rocky Hill. We rode at Rocky Hill, and then we did like a night mount. Like that was like one of our days where we did motocross all day and then mountain biking all night.
Oh, that wasn't the day you got
Are you
hurt?
sure that
No.
that was that when you had the RMs, the 450 that needed chain and sprockets that you wouldn't buy the chain and sprockets for? 'Cause you had-
I don't remember that.
I'm just not gonna ride. I'm just not gonna ride until I get my chain and sprockets. And I'm like, AJ, you can just go down to your local shop and buy those chain and sprockets, and you're like, yep, I do. but I'm not riding until he sends it to
Dude,
me.
if for whatever reason, I remember that bike really well being on it because I also rode your race Kawasaki in, what was that? That was 18. I think that was the last bike that I rode of yours. I remember getting on that Suzuki and the handlebars were so ridiculously low that I was like,
Oh,
how
really?
the, yeah, yeah. But no, that was a cool bike.
That
It's
RMZ
funny.
250, that the JMR 250 bike was nasty. I remember that thing.
The motor was very good because
Was
Todd
really,
at TLR did it. I just remember that bike did not handle at all. I think right? Didn't we struggle
it
with
did not
like,
handle at all. Yep.
oh, that bike
Suspension on that big
was,
time.
which was odd because I did have good luck with
Yeah.
FC. Other than that bike was terrible. But I still had some decent rides on it. Like I made the shootout in Vegas on that bike, and I want to say pretty sure I got 10th in the shootout. Like I remember passing Josh Hansen with like a lap or two to go, and that was on the Suzuki. But I hated that bike all season, and I hated the 450 too, because I remember I made the main. I won the LCQ at Phoenix round 2. Would you have been there yet, or you weren't there yet?
No, wasn't there.
Like I killed that LCQ. There was like Brett Metcalf. There was a bunch of really fast guys in that LCQ, and I just like I whole shot it and won it no problem. But that 450 gave me so many issues too. So we were struggling and struggling, and then San Diego happens, and then we're struggling and struggling more. And then I'll tell the story on my half at least for a little bit. It was getting to the point where I think Jeff was getting fed up with my mechanic Connor at the time. I don't really know why. I don't know if they weren't getting I don't know. To be honest, like I was so young and dumb then, I didn't know a lot of like what was going on around me. Like I was not aware of anything that was going on around me. So I don't think that they were getting along really. And I think that Jeff, after seeing maybe what you did at San Diego, just immediately had higher expectations of like what we should have. And then I just remember on my end, either getting a phone call or I don't know if you just show like do you know how I figured out? Do you?
That was the crazy part, is that like I picked you up and like we all drove out there.
And I didn't even know
And
yet.
no, like you just thought I think you just thought I was like going along for the ride, because Jeff kept wanting to kind of keep it from you. Like it's going to be a surprise. He kept saying he's going to be so excited. It's going to be a surprise. And I'm like, I don't know. This just seems so weird. It just seems so weird. You know, it was very weird. Yep.
Just
but yeah. So going on, you're talking about that Indianapolis race.
Yeah.
Where the first one, where I helped you out. Yeah, it was like it wasn't until like we got there that you even knew.
And didn't you like pull me aside and tell me like, hey, this is what's going on? Jeff didn't want to tell you.
Yeah, I don't remember because there was so much other stuff that went on that day. Like it normally, like if I give all the details, it takes like 45 minutes for me to tell the story. And I like cut out all the fat too. It was insane. But yeah, it was insane. Like I remember we showed up the night before, and Jeff wanted me to do all this stuff to the bike. He's like wanted me to check the valves, do a valve. You remember he was like so worked up about the valve adjustment. Like wanted me to do this valve adjustment, wanted me to go through the whole bike. I showed up. There was like 2 different styles of grips on the bike. There was like graphics were put on. Like it looked like somebody just like licked them like a stamp and threw them at the bike. And
that was all of AJ's bike in 2018. Was that in hotel rooms?
Yeah, but that's because I was doing it then. Yeah.
It was so bad. It was like, yeah, you couldn't take one of the shrouds off because the sticker was like going up onto the tank, and it was like missing bolts. It was just like the bike needed like to be gone through, you know. And it was so funny. So Jeff, like I remember him. He wanted me to do all the stuff to the bike, and of course, like I brought everything. Again, just here's my chance in life. You know, so I got like the toolbox good to go. I've got a bin of everything I could possibly need. I got torque wrenches. I got all the friggin' valve shims. I'm set all up. I'm doing all this stuff. And I got everybody at Team Gus, remember, was like staring at me. Like, you don't remember because you weren't even there. But like everybody's staring at me, and I felt so small, and I felt like I had such low my first time being there. You know, like I was like, I can't believe I'm here. I'm not worthy, and I'm sitting here looking at all these guys, looking at me, thinking that they think I look like a tool bag, and really, I end up finding out later that they were all like, "Holy crap! What is this guy? Where did he come from?" You know. Like nobody knew anything out there. It was insane.
It's all smoke and mirrors.
So anyways, so I get done. I just went through the entire bike. I just checked the valves. The valves were all within spec. Everything's good. We're bolting it back up. And Jeff takes he takes a picture and puts it on Instagram of like me doing the valve adjustment to the bike. And then Todd calls him, freaking out, going like, who is in the engine right now and what are they doing, right? So then Todd gets on the phone. So now I got the engine guy on the phone. He's yelling at me. I'm like, I don't know. I was just doing what I was told, you know? And then he's asking me he's like, all right, well, what was the specs at? Where were they at? I'm like, oh no, they're all good. They're all good. They're all within specs. And then he's like, no. He's like, we're running a different spec on the right side exhaust valve because of that cam that's in there. And I'm like,
oh boy.
Okay. He's like, I need you to change it. So I'm like, okay. So now I have to pull the thing back apart, right? And before I was just checked the valves and they were all good, you know? So I checked it all and was able to do it and put it all back. This time you wanted me to adjust the valves. So I had to take the cams out, everything, sun's down. Nobody's working on bikes on Friday before Supercross. I'm by myself in the pits, and at this point now, there's no light. Yeah, I'm working on a Supercross bike the night before Supercross on my very first event ever, and now I have Jeff using the light on his cell phone as my flashlight to put the bike back together again. It sucked, and I kept having to yell at him because he was on Facebook or Instagram while he was doing the light. So he would be like scrolling, and all of a sudden the light would like not be shining where I needed it to, you know?
God.
Oh man. So yeah.
And,
But anyways,
I didn't know it. Like I didn't know that any of that happened.
You were snoozing at this point.
AJ, do you look back and you're like,
yes.
How?
So the next day.
Oh, sorry.
His lag is so bad. I wonder what this is gonna record like, because I'm totally hearing your stories, and then every once in a while I just have to guess on what you said.
Yeah, it's not terribly bad. No, it's not terribly bad. It's just I think just a little bit of a lag. So I don't mean to. It'll probably sound like I'm interrupting you, and I don't mean to be interrupting you.
And I bet you the freezing part won't be in the recording, or do you think it will?
It might, because I'm recording it. It's not like he's recording his.
Right.
But
okay. What was your question, Bryce?
I was gonna say, when you look back at all these kind of crazy stories and things that could have gone wrong and didn't, or issues you've had, do you like reflect on that and be like, wow, like a lot of my career has just been flying by the total seat of my pants the entire time, every race?
That is, I mean, Jeremiah knows, like, that is the story of my life. Like,
I know.
I don't, yeah, you know, too. I don't have a game plan for much, but it all seems to somehow work. But at least now I have like.
That's the mindset. Sorry, it's my.
You're good.
I was gonna say that's the mindset that you have to have, though, and that's how I honestly think that's one of the biggest reasons why you became successful from doing it, was because most people can't like function that way.
No, I definitely.
Oh no.
No,
I get so stressed.
So that was one of the reasons that I got out of it. You know, everybody was saying to me, "Well, why don't you go work for a factory team? Why don't you go work for a factory team?" And that was the thing, is that I very much enjoyed. I loved doing the whole Supercross thing, but I just couldn't handle like not knowing what was going to happen next month. I mean, how many times in those 3 years did we not know we didn't know we didn't even know if we had a bike, and it was like a month before Supercross started. You know, and it's like that's how it is. So it's like same thing as a mechanic. It's like, you know, you have a rider and all of a sudden he's injured and you don't have a job anymore. You know.
Yeah, and Jeremiah, you were very similar to Bryce.
Or
you were very similar to Bryce, like in that sense, to where regimented and like have a game plan all the time for everything.
Yeah.
You've changed a lot, or you've been able to like really go with the flow.
No, you helped because I remember that a lot.
Oh yeah. I mean, I remember when I first met you, like you would freak out about a lot of things. And I don't know, back then I was just really, dude, there's so much stuff. Like,
you know what it is? It's not even stuff. It's you're so, and I do, this is not, I mean, I love you to death. This is not a negative thing. You're so blissfully ignorant of everything around you. I envy it sometimes, even today. And we're not going to get into any details. It's January 6th, so everybody knows what's going on. But like, I'm texting you, like, not even know if I was going to be physically capable of doing this podcast tonight. As dramatic as that sounds. And you're like, dude, you just go take a yoga class, like chill out. which I mean, I get, and I envy that sometimes, but that has been something that I think has really steered your ship, is how even keeled you are. There's 2 boat references in a row there for you. You're just able to go with that flow, and it doesn't wig you out.
I'm pretty laser focused on my big picture game plan, but all of the little details on like how to get there, I don't stress over. Like if I get to a fork in the road and I have a major decision to make, and like if I choose option A, my whole entire life is going to be different than if I choose option B. I don't even think about that. I just make the decision and then it's done with. Like,
so jealous of that.
I think a lot of people are like, holy crap, like what if I do this and then this happens and then that
That's
happens.
me. I would stay awake at night overthinking everything.
100%. Yeah, see, Bryce, you can't be like that.
No, I know.
You can't be like that.
I trust me, I know. AJ does rub off on me though. I've gotten better.
You have to let him, you know? You have to give in.
Yeah.
You have to give in.
Oh, Jeremiah went from the guy that never really left freaking Cape Cod to traveling to Australia with me. We went to Ecuador together. Like we traveled the entire country racing Supercross. Like we have so many cool stories together. But yeah,
the Ecuador trip, I found out a week before Ecuador
I remember that
I was going. Then I met AJ in Miami, and we both took the same plane from Miami to Ecuador. And it was then that I realized that he didn't know who the guy was that we were going to see in Ecuador. He had only talked to him a little bit on Instagram.
That was right at the beginning of the podcast. I think we talked about that. It was like our 2nd episode, right?
Mm-hmm. Probably.
That's so funny.
And how awesome. Yeah. Like that was one of the greatest trips I've ever had. Wasn't that? Yeah. I mean, that trip ended up being amazing. We met Mateo, who is now like a great friend of both of ours. Mateo came to the United States right after that and hung out with me. I went back to Ecuador again. Like it's same thing with Australia. I'm sure I didn't give you that much notice on Australia, did I? Or did you have a lot of notice on that?
No, I think I had like a couple weeks or so on that one, 3 weeks. Yeah.
It just, if I could give advice to anybody, like try to live that way at least a little bit. Like you want to, yeah. Like,
that is a good advice to give.
I don't stress. I never stress about anything. And sure, should I know more about certain things? Maybe, but I mean, if you think about it, like,
trust me, you're doing just fine. I would rather know half as much as I do and live my life the way that you do. And I'm not joking. Like I don't know if we were talking about it or if it was in one of our recordings or if it was just us on the phone. You're like, I don't have bad days. Like I have bad things happen, but I don't believe in a bad day. And maybe this is like a time for me to self-reflect. Like, dude, I go spiraling into bad days sometimes. And it's not like anything major's happened. And I think and I might have mentioned this before on the show, the pandemic has really helped me put a lot of stuff like this into perspective, to not spiral down the deep end about little things, and put things into perspective. And look, everybody's healthy, you have a happy family, all that stuff. But just from like a general anxiety standpoint, I definitely overthink, and I find myself almost crippled by that sometimes.
Yeah, you have times where you'll text me and you'll be like, "Oh, I got thrown off because like um my dog threw up on the floor or something, and then it caused this to happen, and then that happened." And I'm like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, whoa!" Like,
That is, yeah, I definitely
dude,
let things cascade for sure.
I just I know this conversation is kind of like going off the rails a little bit, but I am
People can
just
relate to this though. I think there's a lot of people that are on both sides that could relate to that.
I'm just a believer in like energy and the energy that you put out into the world. I know some people are religious and like praying, and like to me, praying would be like you putting a positive energy out there and like focusing on one specific thing so hard that it does happen. Like to me, that's what praying is. But um, sometimes I'm like, man, everyone talks about 2020 and how crappy of a year it was, and like all of these bad things kept happening. And like when I sit back and think about it, it's like, were maybe all those bad things happening because so many people thought that so many bad things were going to continue to happen because 2020 was just the year of disasters. And like
The self-fulfilling prophecy for 20.
and all of the, think about all the millions of people putting out that negative energy into the world, and things just start to spiral and get worse and worse and worse. I don't know. That's my theory on it.
Yeah.
But that's how I live every day. And Jeremiah says all the
Yeah,
time, he's like, AJ, he steps in shit and comes out smelling like roses because I just don't
Oh
stress.
yeah.
all the time. But the thing is, it all comes down to the mindset, and you're exactly right. It's like Bryce. It's like you can look at like all the things that go bad if you're not looking at all the things that went good. You know what I
Right.
mean? And like
100%.
once you start to think that you're having a bad day, then all of a sudden you start trying to fulfill
So you start
your
to
belief.
find
So you
reasons
start
why.
trying, you find reasons, and then all of a sudden you're like, "See, I told you I'm having a bad day." You know,
That's
it's
true.
like you really can just start looking for everything. You know what I mean? So it's like it's all about the mindset. If you do find yourself being anxious, usually you're thinking too far ahead, and you got to be in the moment. If you're depressed, you're thinking of too much of the past, and you need to come to the moment. You know?
Yeah, that's good
So
advice.
that's just a little trick.
Yeah.
That's just a little trick. So if you find yourself going crazy, and just remember this, because I used to do this too, is like just remember that there's not a real thing. Stress does
What isn't
not
a real
exist. It does not go walking
Oh, stress?
past you. Stress, stress, anxiety. It's all you.
Yeah.
You are doing it. It's crazy, but it's true. It's like you are making up all of that
100%.
worrying and that everything. It's like you're doing it. It doesn't exist. Nobody else has it. Nobody else, they can't catch it. You know what I mean? It's just, so it's like once you realize that, all of a sudden you're like, oh man, like, I don't want to do that, you know? But going back, and like, I know we're getting off subject here, but
it's
so
fine.
funny
This show is
I,
partly like just Bryce's therapy session. See the couch behind me? That's my shrink's couch.
So I have a theory. My theory on AJ is the fact that like it's so funny. I can't tell you how many people think that for whatever reason that you were rich growing up, and you had everything handed to you. Oh yeah, I've had to correct so many people on that. They're like, oh yeah, well AJ, he had everything. He had everything handed to him his whole life. And I start laughing, and I'm like, oh really? You know?
Yeah.
It's like, I think in your case, I think that if you really go back and you look at like for me, I listened to all your stories of like, you know, constantly going on these teams and not knowing where you're going to be, and like living out of the litter box for so long. You know, it's like, I remember talking to you on the phone. You're driving the litter box out to like wherever. It was like, oh, I'm driving out to St. Louis this weekend. And it's like, oh yeah, and we're talking about money. You're like, I don't have any gas money to get home. But I'm driving out there. And it was for you dealt with a lot of that, like not really knowing what's going to happen and bikes breaking and, just kind of like somehow always ending up at the race, like always ending up like on a bike, So it's like, I wonder if that plays a part into the way that you are now,
Oh, I'm sure it does. I mean, because I I had to just roll with the punches. There was so many things that like technically, I mean, if you look at it that way, technically didn't go my way at all. And then I just wouldn't stress about it and would just kind of figure it out. And oh well. I would just my mindset on it too is like if things don't go right or things go terribly, terribly wrong, at least it's a good story. That's one way I look at it too. Like that's a weird way to look at it, but I haven't told the story in the podcast yet. I'm not going to tell it in length yet because it's too long of a story. But when I went to Switzerland with Allie, long story short, we found a bunch of money, we returned it, and then it turns out nobody claimed it. So then we went back to the police station a week later and we got that money. And in my head, like kind of freaking out because I'm like, well, what if we get arrested and we're in a Swiss jail? Like worst case scenario, I'm like, well, worst case scenario, Allie and I end up in a Swiss jail and we have an amazing freaking story to tell. Like
definitely worse countries to get jailed in, I suppose.
Yeah, probably. I think we'd be all right if we were in if we were in a Swiss jail. That's as crazy as that sounds. That's how I look at things sometimes. I don't know. I don't worry. And even there was a very short period of time when I was 17, 18 years old. I had Rob in my ear a lot, like saying, whoa, what are you going to do when you're done racing? This and that. And I think that was good to have those conversations, but I did at that moment in time for however many months that was, I stressed about that a lot. And I put a lot of thought into that when I probably should have just been focusing on racing. But with the exception of those couple months, like now, if somebody had asked me a year ago, what's your 5-year plan? I'm like, well, I don't know. We'll figure it out when we get there. Like, I'm just going to keep working hard and doing what I'm doing day to day. And then it'll kind of figure itself out. And sure enough, like if you had asked me that a year ago, that would have been my answer. A year later, like absolutely everything has fallen into place. And I could tell you like, okay, I know exactly what the next 5 years are going to look like now.
I'm going to ask you a question and I don't want you to take it personally. But I poured my heart and soul into this podcast, so we need to ask it. Okay. Do you think that this type of mentality where, you have,
I know where you're going with this.
Do you think it's in some way hurt you in your fire to get out in front, to lead, to fulfill your potential on the track in results?
Yes. I knew you were going to ask that or present that.
It's my job.
Yeah, very good. Yeah, I would say so. Jeremiah could probably attest to that more than I can, but I don't know.
Because you have had like a mentality of the last couple of years. We talked about it last week. It's like, yeah, you want to do good for yourself, but it is what it is, kind of deal.
Yeah, no, well, now it's easier to say that because I don't have, I have so many other things going on. But I sort of did have that mentality a little bit 4 or 5 years ago, even. And I don't know why. I don't know if it was like I was like afraid to fail or succeed or what. But also, like, I'm extremely, extremely, extremely competitive in everything I do.
You don't have to tell me that.
But when it comes to motocross, I downplay how competitive I am because I get so overly nervous sometimes, and I don't know. I don't know exactly where to point the finger there, but I definitely have a lot of, because everything except for motocross, I am a freaking beast mentally. Like I could give a seminar on like how to live your life mentally, but then when it comes to motocross, I just struggle with that a little bit. Let me hear it, Jeremiah.
I was gonna say. I mean, I honestly think that there was a time when you did believe that you were gonna win and that you were the best, and those were your best years. You know what I mean? I think that with me and you like changing how you thought about competition when it came to dirt bikes was, I think in your head you had it that you couldn't win. So then all of a sudden you didn't want to play anymore.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. When do
'Cause
you think that happened?
I don't know. I mean, in all honesty, it's like I wonder if it happened right around the JMR time.
I was gonna say
Like,
20,
or
2015.
actually, no, actually, I was gonna say earlier than that because I remember like you in 2013, like you were still pushing, but I feel like 2013, you seemed pretty bummed out, like compared. I didn't really know you before, but like you seemed kind of like it was becoming a struggle with like trying to make it. I know that those years for you, I'm sure, were pretty tough. Like I know when you talk about, like living in the woods and living out of your van and doing all that, it's like I think that part was mentally tough for you, to be like giving it your all and still it not being enough.
Yeah, and those were the prime years where 12, 13, 14, 15, I was living at Club MX like on a couch in a motorhome. Like you definitely get a little burnt out, especially when things don't go your way. And that my expectations naturally are higher if I'm there training every single day and I'm eat, sleeping, and breathing it. Like my expectations are going to be higher. But yeah, I would say like 13 was a pretty good year, and like I had more in the tank for sure. I think I could have podiumed in 2013. I know I could have. 2014, I could have podiumed in 2014 when I rode for Factory Metalworks on the Honda. I got a
What did you get a fourth? Was that I thought you got, or did you get a fifth on the Cowie?
I got a fourth on the Cowie at Indy. I was in third until the last lap, and Muskin passed me. Or I was in fourth on the last lap, but then Blake Wharton, who was leading, crashed out. So then I got passed for what I thought was a pass from fourth to fifth by Muskin on the last lap, but it was actually a pass from third to fourth. So, which sucks. Like 30 more seconds, I would have had a podium. And before that, my best finish ever was the 12th. So that was bizarre. But then I started rattling off top 10s like crazy. And then the following year, 2014 on the Honda, I got fifth in St. Louis. That's when I was doing this triple onto a table that only me and Stuart were doing. And Stuart was on a 450. I was on a 250. I remember Roxon was racing 450 class, and Roxon came up and asked me how the heck I was doing it on a 250. Like there was just a couple weeks there in a row, and there was a 353, which is like a small, big, small. And me and Stuart were the only two guys tire tapping the small, big, small. Everyone else was like slapping into it and bouncing. And Stuart was manning up and tire tapping it, and then I was somehow able to tire tap it. And that was the same year at Daytona when I jumped the wall, and nobody, not even Stuart, jumped the wall that year. But I only did it one lap, and then the second lap I clipped it and I Superman myself, but I stayed on the bike. And then after that, like, man, it got mentally tough because like that was 15 and things started to spiral down. I don't know though, but then 16 on the Yamaha on the Cowie, that's when we did Pilgrim Power Sports 450 on just the East Coast. I was a beast that year. That was the year I tore my ACL.
Yeah. You were a beast right up until you tore your ACL.
Yeah, but even then, after
and even then, I mean, now what I'm going through with my ACL, man, it's like I feel so bad because I just remember like not giving you any credit for riding with a torn ACL.
Was that the year that you hole shotted at Meadowlands at Giant Stadium? Didn't you? I think you had.
No,
yeah.
Yep.
Did I? I hole shotted at MetLife on the Suzuki. I hole shotted there on the Suzuki for sure. I remember me and Dakota's.
Yeah, you had a really good picture, didn't you?
Yeah.
Like with everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Was that was on your Suzuki?
On a Suzuki, but then I also MetLife. That was
a long time. Flies, man. Crazy.
MetLife 2016. I remember I crashed or tipped over or got hung up in the first corner in the LCQ and came from like second to last. And I came back and I qualified. And that's when I had my torn ACL. Because I remember I got third and then Benny Bloss, I think, got fourth. But I made 3 or 4 main events after I tore my ACL that season. Because I remember
that.
Yeah, you made a bunch.
I got 15th at Toronto, and then we went to Detroit. I'm pretty sure Detroit was the next weekend. Was that back to back? Because then at Detroit, I was doing this quad. Remember, that's Detroit's the weekend I tore my ACL in that short set of whoops right after mechanics area. Remember, you'd hit the short set of whoops, turn left, and there was a quad that. I think Malcolm Stewart did it. Maybe Tomac did it. There was like 4 guys that did it, and I was one of them. And I want to say I was like, that was definitely like time qualifying the best I had ever been.
Oh yeah, you were on fire that day. Like I just remember everything was clicking that day.
I remember I hopped in for a hot lap behind Reed, and Reed was like in my way the whole Dude, hot lap.
I still think if you didn't tear your ACL, it would have been obviously, but it would have been such a good season because you were glowing that day.
Man,
like I just remember it. Like,
and there was a triple out of a corner on that track too that like top 10 guys were doing maybe, and that was it. And even after I tore my ACL and I somehow raced that night, I was still going 3 in there with one leg. And that year I didn't practice any Supercross. Remember I was at Moto VIP and I was just riding outdoors.
Yep.
What year did you get landed on?
Hey.
Since we're going back, what year did you get landed on?
At MetLife?
Yeah.
Was that 17?
No, that was Factory Metalworks. I got landed on by Bisceglia, however the heck you say his name. 2014 on the Honda. Got landed on, they black flag or restarted the race. Went to the LCQ there. I was pretty hurt. I forget what I hurt. I made the main that weekend too, but I did terrible. Up until the last race, I had made every main at MetLife and what the heck is the other one? Foxborough. The only one I made every main event except for whatever the last year we were there. I missed it. Ruined my streak. Right? I don't know. They all
no. Where Foxborough?
No, the last one in the Northeast would have been MetLife.
Yeah.
Because that's right. Because that would have been 19, right after I got severely messed up at Houston. Right? Was it?
No.
Wrong year.
Tampa.
Yes, when I crashed at Hampshire's house.
Yep. That's when you had your water balloon, right? That was 18.
My back baby.
Yeah, your back balloon.
Oh man.
That was 18.
They're all really meshing together now. But whatever one that was, I had some type of nagging injury going into MetLife, and I was just having a cruise around. Can't remember. No, what the heck was it? I want to say I crashed at Houston in time qualifying, and that's when I messed a lot of stuff up. Like I separated my shoulder, I broke a couple of ribs, I did something
that was 19.
I think. I fractured.
That was when I was in
wrist.
Utah and you FaceTimed me from the hospital.
Oh, did I FaceTime you?
Yeah, you and Dave Drakes. I was on the side of a mountain.
Oh my God. Yeah. Yeah, because I think I raced Denver. That was the year it snowed at Denver. That was like right after that injury. Somehow I just showed up and did it. And then MetLife, I just had to cruise around. I think. It was like my one a year.
A lot of cruising around.
Yeah. Definitely, there was a lot of cruising around going in Florida last week too.
I can only imagine.
How are you feeling right now? Now we're ticking away days till Supercross starts.
Wow, it's
how are you feeling?
A week and 2 days until I fly out to the first round. Feel better than last 2 years. Put it that way.
Okay, good.
And my bike's slightly better, and I'm more comfortable on my bike. And I still have the weather, knock on wood, looks good from now until the first round when I leave.
You mean
so
means you could ride here.
That means I'll be able to ride. I'm going to ride tomorrow, Friday, Sunday, Monday, Wednesday, Thursday. So I still have 6 more days left on the
I
bike.
call this cramming. He's cramming.
Cramming.
Well,
like
yeah,
it.
kind of. I purposely didn't ride today because I wanted to push all of my riding days as close as possible to Houston, just to keep that
makes perfect sense.
familiarity. Like,
Yeah, it's great. Yeah.
yeah.
Shouldn't ride
Any-
at all. Don't ride at all.
Any updates on structure, procedure, how the events are going? I mean, it was only a few days ago since our last recording, but did you have any info at all since
No,
then?
nope. No, and I'm getting so many people ask me about passes and this and that. I'm like, listen, you would think I would know something because I'm one of the racers, but I don't know a freaking thing.
And
I
Jason,
can't imagine that
same
this
thing.
whole season's not going to be week to week with like
It's gotta be,
craziness.
right?
It's going to be 100%.
Yeah. Yeah. Like for the first round for Houston, I have my COVID test scheduled at like 4:30 on Friday. That's all I know. That's pretty much all I know. I've paid for it ahead of time. So it's paid for, it's scheduled. I'm signed up for the race. I have my physical. Today's Wednesday.
I was going to say,
Dude, the last
my
2
delay.
years, I showed up to Anaheim without my physical, which is a big deal, by the way. Like, you can't race unless you have your physical done. So I showed up 2 years ago at Anaheim and it was Friday. I'm like, oh my God, I haven't got my physical yet. Like, what do I do? So we were driving around to every CVS minute clinic, this and that you can possibly find. And we end up like sweet talking one of the CVS minute clinic nurses into filling this paperwork out. So the AMA, like, they don't care that much about whatever paperwork this is. Like, it's a basic physical, but the problem is on this sheet, it has written down an EKG and an echocardiogram and blood work, which are 3 things that you don't have to get done on this specific paperwork. But the doctor doesn't sign off on it because like, well, I'm not going to sign off on something if I haven't done this. So you have all these people, like, of course, like, they're doctors. They're just doing it by the book and they won't sign it. So I found myself 2 years in a row scrambling to try to figure that out. So I have my physical scheduled this Friday. We're dialed, and all the paperwork is online this year, which in the past it was like old school, like mail it in. So you had to have it done ahead of time. Now I just send it through.
It's about time.
And I'll be golden. Yep.
That's good.
Oh, see you, Jeremiah.
Did I go by?
No, he's toggling in and out of video. It's all right.
How long have we been recording for?
About an hour and 15.
Oh, I wonder how many listeners we have left. 1?
Probably none. They just
None,
listened to
yeah.
an episode. They don't want another one.
Yeah.
We said Wednesday night, so here we are.
When did the last one come out?
Today?
Oh, so is this going to go up? Are we going to be a week behind now? Or we can't be a week behind
well,
once racing
we
starts?
say Mondays, right? We're going to do Monday morning. But for a number of reasons, we couldn't get the last one out on Monday. So we'll get into the flow. We're just getting back into it. Give us a break, people.
Well, Mondays will be good for, because that'll be out pretty quick after the races. Like putting them out on Mondays, or?
You're the man with the schedule. We could do more. We could do an episode every day.
Could you record on Sundays after the Saturday race?
Yeah, for sure. I think that would make the most sense. Then we could do the recap, which we were doing last couple of years, and
Yep.
whatever else.
Makes sense.
I like that.
Jeremiah, what bikes you got there in the background? You have I thought you only had like 1 or 2 customers' bikes. You got a whole freaking garage full.
Honda.
A couple of trail bikes?
Yeah.
What's Abby
Can't
up
get away
to?
from it. A couple
being a
engines
creep?
over there. She's just chilling. Yeah, you can see her. She's
Hey,
she's just chilling. Yeah. She's
Hey.
just keeping it real. Keeping it real, really.
Bear was down here cheering me on, but he gave up.
Jeremiah, have you been getting any pedaling in?
No, I tore my ACL and tore my meniscus Labor Day at Doug Henry's house. And I had surgery at the end of October, and I've just been pretty much doing heel slides and quad sets every day.
So when did we ride at Thunder? I didn't realize you had a torn
August.
ACL then.
He tore it
No,
right after that, right
Labor
before
Day.
my wedding.
Oh, Labor Day. Oh.
Yeah.
I thought we went. Oh, okay.
My 2020 was going awesome right up until Labor.
Damn.
And then it sucked. I mean, the wedding was cool. Don't get me wrong, but it sucked. My leg's just been sucked. It's just been sucking. But
No,
I'm good
that's
now.
brutal.
Like I'm getting better. Yeah, I had an issue like after the surgery. I had an issue with getting my knee straight.
Yeah.
Do you know much
And
about
it was just
ACLs
terrible.
post
Like I was
surgery?
doing everything I possibly could.
No, I know a handful of people who've torn theirs. You and Tim tore them like within like a couple weeks. Remember that?
No, I don't remember Tim doing his.
Yeah, he did it like a week before.
What did he do it on?
Maybe
Bicycle?
a month. No. I think snowboarding. I think.
Oh,
I honestly don't actually remember.
so post-op, at least from my experience, and it seems like Jeremiah's too, the first thing that the doctors and the PT people want you to do is get your leg straight.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so for me, I remember going to the PT sessions and laying on like a therapy type, like massage bed thing, table, and with my knee right at the end. And then they would just put a weight and then just start pushing down on my leg just to try to get my knee to full extension. Oh, and it was so painful.
So
Now,
painful.
there's a couple different ways to repair an ACL now. Like they sometimes use like what part of a hamstring. They could do a cadaver.
hamstring, or patella tendon. And
How did you?
what?
Or patella tendon.
You're gonna have to say that again because I didn't hear it. What?
Hello?
I
He
hope it
said
doesn't
patella
freeze.
tendon.
I thought I heard that too.
Yeah. What did you get, AJ?
Same thing.
You did.
I didn't say anything.
What? What'd you have?
Me,
Hello?
I had a cadaver.
Oh, you did.
Okay.
Hello?
Oh, nice.
Yeah, cadaver. Wow,
He's so,
it's that
he's so
bad?
lagged.
It's so bad. It's
Oh
so
yeah,
bad.
dude. You're a full sentence behind us.
Yeah.
Okay, so
why.
yeah,
it's gotta be my Wi-Fi.
It is. That's
there's benefits apparently to each one. I think cadaver is supposedly a little bit less painful of recovery, probably the easiest recovery, but I think it's supposed to be the weakest option. And I'm pretty sure that the patella tendon is supposed to be the strongest option, but the most painful recovery process. So I had the patella done. Patella, I don't know how you say it.
But yeah, I remember you riding that entire season with the remaining of the season. How long did you actually ride for after you tore it?
A while, because Detroit was pretty early on. Detroit probably would have been February, middle of February, February, however you say that.
And when did you get it fixed? Because I almost remember us riding in the summer, or at least spring.
End of May, middle of May.
Okay.
I got it done. I remember I raced Vegas Supercross, which was the crazy mudder that year. And then I got it done, I think the weekend after that. So second week in May. So I went March, April. I went 2.5, 3 months riding hard on the torn ACL. And my fear with that is that I would have done more damage to the meniscus. And then to fix the meniscus, the only option really is to either tack it if it's very, very minor tears, or after that, the only option is to just start cutting away at it, which eventually turns into, like in the long term, arthritis, and then you just need a full knee replacement. But after those 3 months of riding, I apparently had like the most minor meniscus damage possible. They tacked up 1 or 2 spots, and it was good.
Those EVS braces, man, they saved you.
Maybe. I will say with the patella tendon though, like my kneecap is still completely numb. Do you have any numbness in your knee?
Yeah, I have numbness below my kneecap. Still.
Yeah, like where my scar, I can't like kneel down onto my knees, onto my left knee at all. I've actually still been struggling with that issue when I hurt my leg at that class last month. I still don't have any feeling in my shin bone.
Really?
Yeah. What is that?
I'm not a doctor. I have no idea.
It's very bizarre. It feels like when I touch my shin bone, it's like, it doesn't feel like my leg. I think I really messed up my leg when I crashed.
I told you the day it happened that you should have got x-ray. Then I told you a week after that you should have got x-ray.
I know.
Did you ever
Yep.
get an X-ray?
Sure didn't.
Well, so I mean, I guess you'll just keep guessing forever on what.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like the mystery.
Maybe search it on Google after this.
Oh,
Dude,
if you search that, you definitely have like a tumor in your leg. It's moved to your brain. You have like 30 days to live.
yeah.
Yep.
That's the
You're
WebMD
screwed.
answer. My leg hurts. Oh, sorry, you're dead. Come on.
Well, Bryce, I have to say, man, no genius, no amazingly timed plugs, nothing.
I was
today.
waiting for you to. You were talking about your leg. You're talking about your kneecap. You're talking about your knee injury. All these injuries.
Just kidding.
There you go, buddy.
I got it right here. Matter of fact, I haven't used this shiz in a couple days. I'm gonna put it on as soon as we're done with this. I love the smell of it. All right, so this, ladies and gents, is Alias. Probably recognize the name. Gear company, no longer a gear company, right?
Turned CBD company.
Turned CBD company. Alias Pain Balm. They also have the CBD
Tincture. Tincture
which
oil. Yep.
is not out yet.
I don't think it's officially released yet, but it is coming.
But that stuff's good. Allie's addicted now. Every night, Allie's like, all right, get it out of the nightstand. I open up the nightstand. I get the dropper. I do little droplets into her mouth. It's like, if you time that stuff right, we take it at, I'd say 7:30. If we go to bed, we're probably sleeping by 9:30. Takes that edge off, helps you go to sleep. This stuff just really takes the edge off. I bet you I should start using this on my bad knee as well.
Just start eating it.
I'm just going to start eating it. Premium hemp, all organic, or else Allie would be using it because she's all crunchy like that. You can use code AJCat. now it's invisible.
Okay,
It's
there you go.
right there. Right there. AJCat30 at aliassport.com. 30% off.
30% off.
You get this
AJ
whole
Cat
bad
30.
boy for only like $25, $26. It'll last a long time. AJCat30, aliassport.com. Well worth it.
There you go. Love it.
Yeah. How was that?
It was great. It is a little work, a little refinement.
I know I want some now.
Jeremiah, I'll have to send you some or something, or just use code AJCat30.
Yeah.
Try it because you will like.
Okay.
Have you tried the droplets ever of any type of CBD?
Yeah.
I don't know how other ones have worked. This is the only time I've tried droplets.
Really? It's your only CBD drop?
Yeah, I've tried lotions and balms and stuff, and hadn't had the best luck with other products. But I never tried the drops, and I love these ones.
Yeah, they're good.
You know what? It's very similar to. It's like when I take my gummies that have the old THC in them to help me sleep. You kind of have like a little, especially
you sleep in the middle of the day now.
What? Especially if you mistime it. If you take those bad boys too late, like you wake up with a little bit of like that THC hangover, kind of like you're just feeling a little sluggish. Apparently, like I don't think it really helps your deep sleep. I think it actually interrupts your deep sleep.
That's right.
It does.
But the CBD kind of takes that edge off, helps you fall asleep, but I don't have that sluggish hangover feeling in the morning at all.
I will tell you that since I started using CBD drops, I sleep whenever I do. I always use a little bit more than they recommend.
I do too.
But I sleep like a
you and
rock.
Everyone else.
I sleep like a rock, dude.
Yeah.
It really is unbelievable. It's great.
Yeah, and Allie has been.
It's natural. Well. I love that it comes out of the ground. They get it out naturally and throw it in some drops with like some flavoring and MCT oil and whatever else they put in there, and it's freaking mint. Love it. Yeah, I can't wait now. I mean, this is not a politics show, but I think we have, as of today, I think we might have a pretty good shot of some federal legalization within the next 4 years. I think that really might be coming pretty soon.
Wait, so historically speaking, are Democrats more for like legalizing that stuff, or Republicans?
I would say in general, it would be more of a left-leaning issue than a right-leaning. That's a
Meaning
specific,
that they try to legalize it?
yes. But
Oh,
they're more advocating for the legalization. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I don't, at this point, like, I don't see why not. Jeremiah always has a good point of like, you don't want that stuff to be your crutch by any means,
Mm-hmm.
which like, I
Yeah.
mean,
Well, dude, the history of marijuana is insane in this country. And I mean, I'm not an expert on it. I get all my info from Rogan's podcast, basically, about just like the how it was such a viable product that competed with cotton and everything else in the Industrial Revolution that they were like, no, they wanted to. There was so much economic impact around subverting it, not even like the drug aspect, but just like it was going to be used for a paper substitute, a textile substitute, a building substitute. That it just threatened too many industries, and they were in this. They just didn't want it.
Imagine that.
bizarre.
Yeah.
Bizarre.
Imagine that.
That's
Anyways.
crazy, huh? One little plant can do so much.
Yeah.
It's wild.
I also I react a little bit different to all those types of things. I feel like, I don't know, like when I tore my ACL and I had surgery done in May, that's when I created the academy and the idea of the academy, and I built the website and I started scheduling schools. That's like when it all came together, when I was on hydrocodone after I had ACL surgery. And I would just lay by the pool at our apartment in Georgia, in Savannah, with my little laptop and just go to work for hours the whole day. Like I'd be brainstorming.
Maybe they said it was
ideas.
hydrocodone, but it was actually Adderall. Did you ever ask that question?
I've never had Adderall, but by what it's supposed to do, this is what that was. Like hydrocodone, unless they screwed up my prescription, was reacted the exact same way that Adderall would react with most people. Like I was motivated and freaking going at it and super creative. And I get the same way when I have my old THC gummies. I just like, I come up with idea after idea after idea, and I'm so productive. I don't know. And most people are the exact opposite, right?
Well, I think it depends. I mean, it depends on the person. It depends on how you're adjusting it.
Yeah.
Probably. Yeah. I'm glad you found success in it.
Yeah, this is how it starts, and then it just gets worse.
Don't forget,
worse.
AJ, it is a gateway drug. Be careful.
Yeah, well, Jeremiah doesn't stress the gateway drug part of it.
This
But he
is-
stresses like the
I'm only
just
fucking
create. Yeah, he just stresses like the creating too much of a habit out of it. Which, trust me, I am like, once maybe twice a week with it, and then when it
Exactly, and
runs out, it's out for 2 months, and then I go and get it again, and it's like once a week. Don't do it for like, it is so sporadic.
Yeah.
But yeah, I get where you're going, Jeremiah. Like it's very easy to start just doing it all the time.
Well, the conversations that I had with you is that like there is this funny thing that all of a sudden it becomes legal, and then everybody thinks it's okay. Like in Massachusetts, you can buy it recreation, and it's just so funny how many people I know that never would have done it before, and now are doing it regularly just because it's legal. And it's like, to some extent, it's like I get it using it as a drug, but like a lot of people can't control that. So it's like all of a sudden, like you said, like the gateway drug, it's like all of a sudden everything, it snowballs. I've seen it happen so many times. So that's the only thing that I get nervous about with it going legal, is like all of a sudden you're like, there's like a promotion of it as well,
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I think the devil's advocate position would just be like, we already do it with alcohol. I mean, alcohol is in your face all the time, everywhere. And
I 100% think that weed's better than alcohol.
without a doubt, without question. Yeah.
Speaking of alcohol, I got these went to Total Wine. Total Wine, is that what the store is called?
Mhm.
Went there today, and I got, forget the name of it. It's local Virginia brewery, and it's a caramel macchiato stout.
Okay.
Dang.
Real
Sounds
good.
sophisticated. I don't peg you as a
Real
craft beer guy. I know you like your whiskeys.
I'm not like the biggest like IPA guy, because a lot of this stuff tastes like, I don't know how to describe it. I'm very bad at describing tastes, but like sour. A lot of beers taste
Bitter?
sour to me. Maybe
Yeah.
bitter is the word I'm looking for. I like Guinness. So what's Guinness? Is that a porter or stout?
Dandelion, scrap.
I like anything that's really, really dark like that, because to me it tastes like chocolate.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's caramel macchiato stout just tastes like a little bit of coffee and chocolate. Freaking
I like to get the
delish.
most bang for my buck for my beer. Meaning, I go for the IPAs, the double IPAs, because you can get like a 7 to 9%, and it's just like, all right, it tastes delicious, and I don't have to drink 4 of them. I can drink 2, and I'm chilling. The stouts, Guinness, what,
those are
4%, 5% max.
Oh, really? I thought they were more
They're
than that.
typically lower, yeah.
Oh,
The heavier ones, like I'm not a big fan of, just taste wise personally, but
what
like
would
a
be
Guinness,
like
I think is
a
like 4.
what would be like a Bud Light?
Like 4, 4.5.
Oh, see, I would have guessed that Guinness had way more than like a Bud Light or a Corona or something like that. What are you doing, Jeremiah? Your headphones die? Can't hear us? Oh,
I'm
wait.
back, I think.
He's back.
Oh,
He's back.
Oh, he's just got a 30-second lag now.
This is the I never mentioned Joe Rogan as much as I have today. I don't know why. But this is, do you watch the Snowden interview?
I have
the
to say
last couple?
I never watch the
Well, listen,
whatchamacallit ones where it's over the
Skype,
yeah.
because of the lag.
yeah.
So no one's gonna watch this either.
Yeah.
I get
As
it.
I was saying,
Stupid
I
lag.
It is tough, but it's not we didn't we try. Oh, remember we tried when we were still figuring all this out. We were using Ringer, but we wanted to do video before Zoom was really a viable option, and we were using Ringer to record the audio, but doing FaceTime at the same time.
Oh, really?
That was a nightmare. Yeah.
Well, I think it just becomes an internet thing, right? So we got to just make sure that our guests have really, really good internet, which is tough. Like, do you have good internet?
I mean, I have the best internet that we can buy from Xfinity, but everybody in town, like, we only have Xfinity. We don't have any other option, and everybody how bad it is. So it really depends on what it is, Is it still lagging?
It just really started to dance around on us.
I know. The funny thing is that I use Microsoft Teams at work, and
it's fine.
That program is awesome. Like, out of everything,
it does work pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah.
I had to use that for my phone call for this chair. Actually, I'd never heard. I didn't know what it was. I'd never heard of it. Checking out the Behind the Gate YouTube channel. By the way, for those of you listening, I'm sure all of 0 to 1 people are listening right now. Unless maybe, never know. People maybe just fast forward and only listen
They're
to
hanging
the
on to the end with they're just holding out hope that it gets interesting. Maybe.
Make sure that if you're just listening to this and you'd like to see it and see all of our beautiful faces, that you go to Behind the Gate YouTube channel. So you could just go to YouTube, www.youtube.com, and you can type in Behind the Gate, and all you have to do is scroll down to the 3rd video. So that's what's cool, is like literally nobody has anything behind the gate. So we pop right up to the top. And look at us go. We have 23 subscribers, Bryce, and we have 83 views on our first video. Not too bad. 3 comments.
All 3 are you.
All 3 are me. How many? What do we
That,
got
that
for-
was a great plug. I think I gotta do a little coaching with you about a marketing presentation. I would not subscribe to that channel based on your recommendation. Right?
I don't know. The thumbnail's great. The video is good. It's 1:56.
Yeah, who watches that long of a YouTube video? I mean, I literally do, so I shouldn't.
Well, we're gonna start doing clips of all the juicy stuff. So
We got great plans. As long as all of these plans come to fruition, it's gonna be great.
You know what we got to do for the clip for this one is you need to pause a
100%
screenshot
on
of
the
Jeremiah
case.
holding the case, and
Oh,
then we
absolutely.
just clip the
Already
case
crossed
talk.
my mind. Yeah.
And then I was thinking it actually as he was holding it up. I'm like, hold
Me
it, Sandy,
too,
hold it a
me
little
too.
closer.
Yep. Yeah, definitely.
I'm getting antsy. I got
funny.
ants in my pants.
All right. Well, I'll let you guys get to bed, AJ. I know it's well past your bedtime right now.
Why'd you disable participant screen sharing? What is that?
I didn't. Do you want to share your screen?
I can't even talk. I just have too much of a lag.
Well, Jeremiah, you're gonna have to join us again because we talked about all of about 0.5% of all the
I know, we
stories we
never-
have to tell.
We didn't even get to the funny part about the first race in Indianapolis.
Oh yeah. Oh my
never
God.
even got. Never
Save
even
it.
got.
We'll save
there.
it for Jeremiah episode 2 because that's a long story in itself.
We'll lead with that one the next time.
It's a good
Keep
one.
everybody on the hook.
We got
It
a
is.
bunch of them.
It is a good one, and we got a.
I'll get some better internet.
Yeah. Step your
Yeah.
game up,
Yeah.
son.
Hey,
I'll get a little
Jeremiah,
more
thanks
dialed
for joining us tonight. Appreciate
Yeah,
talking
thanks
to
for
you.
having
And
me.
I love hearing the stories. They're always a shit show. And I can't even imagine being there. I was only part of really one of those kind of weird situations.
And it was not what
One
you
of the
expected.
weirder ones, probably, right?
No, that was normal. That was normal.
That was also a brake rotor, things falling off the bike. What
Yes,
else
it's a
happened?
supercross race.
Yeah.
Yeah, Bryce was just so mind blown that like people have this idea in their mind of what it's going to be, and then especially like Bryce was thrown right into like right behind.
I didn't know what the
Seeing-
heck I was getting myself into.
Yeah, and
Looking
he-
back now, why would you trust me to be your mechanic on a race day?
I forget. Did you go down to the line with me?
Yeah.
Oh, you did. You full blown did it.
Yes, everything.
Dang, that's cool.
It was cool.
Did I not have a good night? I can't remember even what year that was.
Well, that was the race back from Tampa after your accident at Hampshires.
Oh, right.
So you had that absolutely disgusting thing that
Right.
I remember going to the doctors and they taped it up, right? They taped over your skin just to protect it from like any further impact.
I forget something weird.
Mm.
They told me I was going to have that back baby possibly forever. It went away.
That's good because it was disgusting.
It was.
Do you remember that,
I had one
Jeremiah?
of those for a while. No, I don't remember seeing it.
His
No,
whole
I
like
remember.
his whole lower back, like his whole lumbar spine was like the skin was separated from all the muscle and just
It was
filled
like
with a pocket of water. It was
It was like a
freaking-
waterbed.
It was literally like a water.
Oh, gross.
It was disgusting.
Yeah, they called it like a degloving.
Degloving.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Which is gross to even think about. So it just got like peeled and then it just filled with fluid.
Yeah, right. That's what my hands used to do all the time. I would get blisters. I'd get blisters like my whole palm of my hand.
Oh yeah.
Same thing would just like rip. My hands would just rip apart always.
Too much porn
Is
or,
it-
or what?
And I just didn't know how to ride. I didn't know how to ride for so long. I had no idea. I just twisted the throttle, made a bunch of noise and shit.
Jeremiah didn't know how to ride the right way until he went to Moto VIP in 2000.
100%. I went to Loretta's in 2011. No idea what I was doing the whole time I was there. Yep.
I remember seeing you ride
I
it.
thought
And the
I know.
academy didn't exist back then, so you couldn't have taken a class.
No, I thought I knew how to ride. No idea. Nope.
No, he was good, Bryce. Like when we say he didn't know how to ride, like he was still very fast, but he just didn't like he was really overcomplicating things. Because I remember that first day I saw you ride at Moto VIP, there was just so much going on. so much going on. And I was like, whoa, like get
Like
the
what?
heck
Like
off
what's so much going on? I want to hear your analysis.
just a lot of clutch abuse from what I remember.
A
A ton
lot
of like,
clutch abuse.
like a
Tons.
pulling the clutch in to like hit the
Skidding.
rear brake and skidding. And yeah, there's just,
That was one of the first things you told me to stop doing was the clutch. I think a lot of people do that.
yeah, especially at a lower level. I mean, if you're a local expert, amateur, C-class rider, I wouldn't use the clutch a single time the entire time I'm out there. Really, like just stop overcomplicating things. I wouldn't even barely use the rear brake. I would just try to cruise around the track as smooth as possible, because you can still go pretty darn fast, like without hitting the brakes, without using the clutch, nothing, just like kind of like flowing around the track. It's really not until you want to get to that really, really, really high level of riding that like you have to start complicating things with all the other controls. I could win any local B class race without the clutch and without a rear brake. And for most,
Yeah, say that if you could just have that conversation with everybody in the pits all at one time, that'd be great. Because I learned how to I got my first dirt bike at 19 years old, and I learned how to ride by listening to everybody in the pits. So I was always told that you drag the rear brake through corners and you clutch everywhere. You know what I mean? Like just the crazy stuff that I was told how to ride a dirt bike, and I was doing it, but it was all wrong. All of it was wrong. I just used to make like a lot of noise and just do like a lot of things that I didn't need to, you know?
oh, at Moto VIP, I remember like the only section I remember you going through was the sand section, but it was just, there was so much racket and there was so much going on.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's like one of my things was I used to always laugh because I would go into, you remember that huge like whoop section, roller section at VIP?
Yeah.
Like that was a perfect example. I think that was where I really learned about foot position, because I never knew. I remember you being horrified, because what I would do is I would just always, I knew how to go fast by going like this. So I would just smash the throttle, whack it as hard as I could, and just hold on for dear life going into the rollers. And that's how I would ride. And it was so funny because it's like sometimes I'd go through them so good, and then other times I would get thrown off and I would just ragdoll down the side of the friggin' track, you know? And
have no idea why.
And I had no idea why, but that's how I rode dirt bikes, was just whacking the throttle, holding on for dear life, and hoping that I didn't die, you know? And it was at Moto VIP that you told me about foot position and going through the rollers. And then as soon as I dialed in my foot position and went through the rollers, it was consistent. And I was like, wow, that's consistency in rollers? Yeah.
I've been getting blown up the last 24 hours or so because of a video that Ryan Hughes put out. Did you guys happen to see that by chance?
No.
He just put up this video about like a new way of riding. Like he's talking about sitting on the back of the seat when you're going through turns. And
Interesting.
in the riding, he's showing like he's doing like a voiceover over top of riding footage of himself, and then like demonstrating it like stationary, the bike sitting on a stand. And when you watch it, he's not sitting on the back of the bike. He's sitting very neutral, which is in fact what I teach, but he keeps saying like you want to sit on the back of the bike. And I think he just meant like way further back than what most people teach. Like most people are like, get on your gas cap. And that's not where I want you. Right. Like you should be pretty darn neutral, especially with both feet on the pegs. Like you're sitting almost smack dab in the center of the seat, just a tad like forward from the center of the seat. But throughout this whole 1.5-minute video, he keeps saying, sit on the back of the seat, sit all the way back on the seat. He even says, and like, I'm like, oh no, like all these people are sending me messages like, are you sure? Are you sure? Like what, tell me what's going on in this video. So I'm having to explain to 1 million people like, oh, whoa, hold on. I don't know why I just thought of that, but.
So what's your verdict?
I mean, my verdict is like feet on the pegs, which Ryan Hughes is pretty big about too. And then just like I have a toy dirt bike in here somewhere. Let me get this toy dirt bike. This will be perfect.
Perfect time to highlight Mavix. Chairs made for podcasters and gamers. Look at AJ's green screen, which he's not used appropriately since he got it.
Oh, matter of fact, guys, if you go to mavix.com, that's MAVIX. It's invisible now. Mavix.com / oh, I don't know what it is. I think it's /AJ. Mavix.com / AJ Mavix. That's MAVIX. Mavix.com / AJ Mavix. Get a free footrest. Okay,
So not an AJ Cat 30 promo code.
Nope.
Like we spouted the last episode. Okay.
Oh, this is so there's a lot of green in this dirt bike, and I have a green screen, so this is going to be
but
tricky.
you don't have your green screen on, so it's
okay.
just...
So you want to sit. Where's the camera? Oh, this is tricky.
Yep. Nope, you're good.
Okay, right here.
Yep.
I'm not going to move it. You want to sit right here.
Okay.
So
it's a good visual.
Pretty much. Imagine the people listening to this. You want to sit right here. So smack dab center of the seat would be right here, pretty much in line with your airbox, or whatever this rubber buoy.
That looks in line with your foot pegs as well.
Okay, good point. Yeah. So if you're lined up with your foot pegs, you want to be an inch in front of that, somewhere in this area here. You don't want to be on your gas cap like some people used to teach that. But what Ryan Hughes was describing, he made it seem like you want to be sitting way the heck back here. You don't want to be doing that because you're going to have no weight on the front. Like right just in front of those foot pegs. Okay. All right, there we go. I would tell you where to
that visualization helped me a lot.
Yep. No problem, man. All right. I've been over this conversation for a while. I got to go to bed. I got to ride my dirt bike tomorrow, like early in the morning.
Way past your bedtime.
Yeah, poor you.
All right, let's apologize one more time to the people who are still listening or watching.
Okay. Sorry, everybody.
Yep.
World's
Sorry
worst
for
podcast.
my lag.
What? Did he say?
I said sorry for my lag.
Oh,
What did you say?
Huh?
No, I'm just kidding. Hey, Jeremiah, thanks again for coming on. We'll have you on again soon.
I hope so.
We got a lot more stories to tell. All right. Well, thanks, Jeremiah.
Yep. Bye.
I'll call you someday.
Yeah,
maybe,
you won't.
Maybe next month.
All
right,
All right,
guys.
everybody. Thanks for tuning in.
Yep.
Catch you next time. Adios.